And then I might re-record the intro, but I just kind of want to set the tone.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have a truly inspiring guest, Ariel Garten, a neuroscientist, innovator, and entrepreneur who is making waves in the field of brain health. Ariel is the co-founder and chief evangelism officer of Muse, a groundbreaking brain sensing headband designed to enhance meditation and improve mental wellness. Ariel's journey is as fascinating as the technology she has developed. With a background in neuroscience and psychotherapy, she has dedicated her career to empowering individuals to understand their brains better and overcome mental obstacles. Before launching Muse, Ariel worked in research labs studying the brain and even ventured into fashion design, showcasing her unique ability to blend science with creativity. Muse has already helped hundreds of thousands of people worldwide by providing real time feedback on brain activity during meditation. This innovative device not only aids in meditation, but also tracks sleep patterns and helps users manage stress more effectively. It has been a game changer for me, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's also trusted by institutions like Mayo Clinic and NASA. Muse is truly at the forefront of a movement to make brain training accessible to everyone. So, in this episode, we'll delve into Ariel's personal story, explore the importance of brain health, and discuss how Muse can transform your practice and overall well being. So, let's jump right in and learn more about the incredible work Ariel is doing with Muse. Welcome!
Thank you so much. Hi, Karen. It's such a joy and a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. Honestly, I got sent the Muse headband and I was skeptical, obviously. But then I gave it a try and I was blown away. So I'd love to dig into that. But at first, let's start with your background and what led you to this point.
Sure. So my background, as you've just heard, is quite varied. My mom was an artist, so I grew up with the idea that you needed to create experiences in people's lives that would be, moving and compelling and touch that human part of us. In the meantime, I was very interested in science and the brain and how it works. So I went to school for neuroscience and then began really trying to figure out how we apply an understanding of how the brain works to improving people's lives. I became a psychotherapist in private practice, delved along the way in fashion design as another way to artistically engage people and their personality and their sense of self, and eventually began working in a research lab with a man named Dr. Steve Mann. He was a professor at the University of Toronto, and he had an early brain-computer interface system that we began to use to help people understand their own mind and interact with technology directly with their brain. And that really became the basis for the creation of Muse.
I love that. I think brain health is such an important topic and something that we don't necessarily place as much emphasis on as building muscle and eating properly, because the results there are clearly visible when you look in the mirror, right? Let's talk about the importance of brain health and why you have chosen to focus on that.
So the brain is the core of everything. And it's so interesting that there's been so little conversation around brain health until lately. Now we're aware of how many people are struck with Alzheimer's and age-related cognitive decline. We're beginning to have a sense of, hey, we take care of our bodies, we take care of what we eat, we exercise, we're starting to see meditation come into play. And it's only now that the conversation around brain health is being tackled. Some have said that, we are now in the decade of the brain. And it's been really inspiring to finally have the sort of feedback from research around the things that we can do to improve our brain health. Because I think part of the reason it hasn't been part of the conversation to date is people are like, we don't even know what to do. We don't know what the literature says. And now the literature has some good recommendations of how we can protect our brain as we age.
So what is the literature saying?
So interestingly, the literature says very much the same thing to do for our bodies, we should do for our brains to protect our brain health. So it has been demonstrated that exercise, good sleep, stress relief and meditation, and proper diet, as well as social connection, are really the first and foremost keys that we should all be using to manage and improve our brain health as we age. Our brain is an organ, just like our heart is or our stomach is. And so the kinds of things that we do to protect our body overall and the things that we do to protect our heart and keep our heart healthy also work really well for our brain. So you want to make sure that you are exercising regularly, a minimum of an hour and a half of good exercise per week at the very minimum, ideally walking 30 minutes a day, as well as some cardio and weightlifting throughout, but not over exercising. You want to make sure you are eating well, and we can certainly dive into foods that are best for the brain. You want to make sure that you are sleeping well, and we can talk all about what happens in the brain during sleep and why sleep is so important for your brain health. And then, of course, you want to be managing your stress, because cortisol literally shrinks areas of your brain, and doing techniques like meditation to help you prolong the functionality and volume of your brain.
I love that. I love practical information, and I know the listeners love practical information. So let's talk about diet and the foods that are best for brain health.
Sure. So some of this is going to be really obvious because, again, the foods that are not good for your heart are also not good for your brain. Your brain has arteries inside of them, just like your heart does. Your brain has capillaries, places where blood flows, and the same things that block your heart arteries can also and cause a heart attack when they block your brain, cause stroke. So they're two very corollary experiences. So you want to make sure that you are managing your saturated fats effectively. You want to be avoiding highly processed foods. So, eating good whole foods, incorporating grains, incorporating fish, and decreasing the amount of red meat that you eat are the basic recommendations for a heart healthy diet and a brain healthy diet. If you want to move one step beyond that, evidence has demonstrated that high amounts of omega-3s are particularly good for the brain. So in omega-3s, you have EPA and DHA. And it turns out that the neurons inside your brain, some of them, the axons of them, some of them are myelinated with DHA. So they have like this sheath, this fatty sheet around them that helps communication between the neurons happen more effectively. And so you want to be consuming significant amounts of DHA in order to ensure that you're maintaining the fatty membranes around your neurons. So I'm not a medical doctor, so don't take my specific recommendations, but around 1,000 milligrams of fish oil daily has been demonstrated to improve brain health, or at least maintain brain health. There are also a number of foods that have great phytochemicals inside them and anthocyanins. So the dark berries like cherries and blueberries have been demonstrated to be good for the brain. Healthy fats like olive oil and walnuts have been particularly shown to be good for the brain, and decreasing saturated fat, so less eggs, less eggs, less meat. And also, you might have heard of the gut-brain connection, but it turns out that what you put inside of your stomach also can have an effect on your brain, and that goes right down to the microbiome. So studies have shown that eating yogurt with probiotics like lactobacillus inside of it have actually been demonstrated to decrease anxiety and depression. So even a cup of yogurt a day, or things that you do to provide for your gut, which means no refined sugar, and good prebiotic, as well as actively consuming yogurt and products with probiotics in them, can potentially improve not only your cognition and your brain health, but also your mood.
I love that. I think we'll agree to disagree on the diet piece, because I'm a
Sure.
big believer in saturated fat, a lot of red meat, all of that, and just through the research that I've done myself, I'm a big believer in sugar-free and no processed food. So I think we definitely align on that. And then obviously the berries and the stuff. I love the gut-brain connection. I recently read that more serotonin is produced in the gut than in the brain.
It's true.
So can you expand on that a little bit and how important that is for brain health?
Sure. I want to just go back for half a second on
Yes.
red meat and saturated fat,
Yes.
because it's a really interesting question. And as I said it, I was aware that in other ways of thinking about diet, high saturated fats and red meats, the right kinds of saturated fats and the right kinds of red meats are highly recommended.
Yeah.
And it is variable from person to person. As we look at the literature, though, on the brain, what we see is that too many saturated fats can lead to problems. We don't know why that is, and we don't know what kind of diets those are included in. So, the recommendations around saturated fats and red meats, whenever you do diet studies, it's really particularly longitudinal over the course of one's life, and you try to say, what has this person eaten for 30 years that has led to this cognitive decline at the end?
Yeah.
It's really hard to separate out all of the different factors, the exercise, the additional kinds of foods that they eat. So, on the diet piece, the research is not still perfectly clear longitudinally. And the idea of red meat and saturated fat is related to the heart healthy diet. So, you can think about those two pieces in the same way that you might think about how you manage your diet for heart health. And there are definitely different schools of thought there.
Right. And I think just because I've had such a deep dive in 7 country studies and the flawed research there, and how so much of these recommendations is not necessarily based on a diet of steak and salad and vegetables and berries. It's literally the red meat in a lot of these studies is hamburgers and fries. And so it's not the red meat causing it, according to the researchers that I've been following and looking into. It's this combination. And as you mentioned, there's a longitudinal study, and looking at a lot of survey data, we can't really tell if it is the meat, although the meat is the one that has been demonized.
Yes.
So I think it's an important distinction for my audience, because a lot of them are very interested in low carb keto. It's created significant change in their own lives. And I don't want them to not listen further, because you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily align with their personal experience.
Which is why I doubled back to the topic rather than just, putting it under the carpet. So when we look at the literature, there is not necessarily, I'm not aware of brain health literature that looks specifically at red meat in the absence of carbs.
Yes.
So I'm not aware of literature that looks specifically at a paleo diet and its long-term effects on brain health. We do know that ketogenesis that is produced from paleo and keto diets can be very good for brain health. And,
Right.
Short and long chain fatty acids are seen to be really effective at improving cognitive function and performance, at least in the short term. There isn't data around the long-term effects of it, but it seems to be really helpful. And there are certainly studies that have shown the short-term effects of it being able to clear up cognitive difficulties. So again, the research is complex. We do know we don't want to clog the arteries in your brain. We want to get good phytochemicals. We want to be focusing on omega-3s. We want to be supporting the gut as much as we can. And also we want to be drinking water. Not, you don't have to bathe yourself in the water you're consuming. I'm being silly, but you don't have to overconsume water, but being dehydrated actually reduces your reaction time significantly. So, maintaining appropriate hydration is part of the story too.
Yeah, no hyponatremia coming into the play here. I think, what, in your opinion, is the brain's ultimate fuel source? Glucose or ketones?
So glucose is, what we think of as the brain's food source, and the brain consumes a lot of glucose. And that goes back to this very interesting connection around sugar, where the brain needs a lot of glucose, but as soon as you have too much glucose in the brain, you can start to see degradation in the brain's function. Diabetes is the most obvious example of that, where you have significant cognitive dysfunction that can come along with advanced diabetes. But in sugar in the brain, you can start to see inflammation. You can start to see changes in connectivity with significantly excess sugar. So it's a very fine line, and certainly the recommendation of reducing processed sugar is one that continues to be important for the brain, just like it is for the rest of the body.
Yeah. And brain on ketones, fueled by ketones?
Brain fueled by ketones appears to be, working very effectively. Again, not a ton of literature there, not a lot of long-term studies, but it appears to be an effective mode for the brain to use energy.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I love that. Because there are so many new ketone products on the market, there's a lot, it seems to be there that there's a lot of interest in research working in that direction, with regards to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and various diseases that are affecting the brain. So anyway, let's shift a little bit to meditation. Meditation is definitely a practice that I have tried so hard to incorporate in my life over the last 20 years. It's something that greatly benefits me when I am able to get into a practice. But I have this monkey mind. I've never formally been diagnosed with ADHD because I've never wanted that diagnosis. But for me to focus and concentrate and not have my mind spin and jump all over the place is incredibly hard. And so I know that meditation is very important for me to incorporate in my life. I can tell you that using Muse and having those little birds chirp is so exciting that I absolutely love it. Let's talk about meditation and how Muse comes into that picture and just makes it so much easier.
Sure. So meditation is incredibly good for the brain. Taking a moment to step back on the meditation and neuroscience literature, meditation has been demonstrated to increase or maintain the volume of your prefrontal cortex as you age. It's been shown to maintain the volume of your hippocampus, so the part of your brain responsible for learning and memory. It's been shown to downregulate your amygdala, your fight or flight response. So meditation is great at literally changing and maintaining the structure of your brain as you age. It also is really good at, in real time throughout your daily life, helping you focus and helping you relax. So both managing your ability to manage your thinking and your focus and your attention, as well as to calm your body and reduce your cortisol levels. So generally speaking, meditation super great. We all know meditation is very hard to do, very much like the experience that you described. And that's why we created Muse, which uses EEG sensors to track your brain while you meditate and give you real-time feedback on your brain's activity. So you know when you're meditating, when you're doing it right, and you're reinforced for staying in that meditation state.
I love it. I love it. Why did you decide to create this device?
So I was somebody who also tried to meditate and really sucked at it. I never got an official diagnosis of ADHD, but when you filled out all the forms, were you a child who lost your mittens? Are you somebody who, has too many thoughts at the same time and can never stay focused? Yeah, I filled out every box. I checked them all. And so I was a terrible meditator. My brain would just jump all over the place when I tried to do it, and I felt like I sucked at it. At the same time, I was working as a psychotherapist in private practice. It's a frontline approach to use meditation to manage anxiety and depression. So I'd be teaching my patients to meditate, and I couldn't even do it myself. And then I also, with my background in neuroscience, was aware of all the literature and benefits of it. And I'm like, I really need to do this thing, but how? And so through the process of building Muse, of actually having a tool that can show you when you're meditating, can show you like when you're in the zone and when your mind is wandering, it became the first time that I was actually able to meditate. And I had that like aha moment of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. And then I was able to like write a long form essay for 45 minutes, which would have normally taken me hours because my brain would have bounced all over the place. And so once you sort of had that thing that worked, we're like, this is great. How can we now share with other people the benefit of meditating and the ability to do it in this way that makes it so much easier with real-time feedback so you know what's going on?
No, and I honestly love it. So I'm the type of person who wants to know exactly what's going to happen when this device arrives, how it works, how I need to get started, how much time I need to put away for it. Can you talk us through those steps?
Sure. So for anyone who doesn't know what a Muse is, the This is the Muse. We actually have 2 of them.
I have the other one.
Yep. So this is the Muse 2, and this is the Muse S. The Muse S is for the Muse 2 is for meditation. The Muse S is actually for meditation as well as sleep. So it comes just like this out of the box. It has sensors on the forehead and behind your ears that are actually going to track your brain activity. And it comes with everything that you need to know. So you just slip the Muse on your forehead, and then you download the Muse app on your phone and log in. And then it walks you through how to use it. It actually shows you your brain waves, and you can blink your eyes and clench your jaw and practice different states and see how your brain waves change. Then when you land on the home screen, there are a range of different meditation exercises that it takes you through. So the most popular is Muse Mind. And in Muse Mind, you're actually listening to the sound of your mind while you meditate. And the metaphor we use is your mind is like the weather. So when you're distracted and thinking, you hear it as stormy. And as you come to quiet, focused attention, it quiets the storm. And then if you're able to maintain that quiet, you hear little birds chirping, which is all very reinforcing to your brain to say, yep, you're there. And then at the end of your session, you actually see a graph that shows you what your brain was doing over the course of the session, as well as what your heart was doing in your body. So we have meditations for the brain, the heart, the breath, and the body, as well as lots of guided content and different meditation types.
And the ultimate goal of this is to do what?
The ultimate goal of this is to live a happier, healthier life by not being as bothered by the endless chatter in your own mind. So, I mean, that's the big picture.
Yeah.
The shorter term goal is to help you establish a meditation practice. And once you do that, to really unlock the benefits of meditation in your life. So those range from being able to be more patient with the people around you, being able to notice when you're stressed and take a breath and a calm to bring yourself back to a place of calm, be able to focus and be more productive in your workday, and be able to not be as thrown off by the emotional reactions that you may be having or the negative stories that we may be telling ourselves. And we found this has been incredibly effective. So about 500,000 people worldwide have used Muse to either start or enhance their meditation practice. And we've heard just amazing stories about the changes it's been able to make in people's lives.
I love this so much, honestly, because I know how beneficial it is. And I'm really getting into the very basics here with you because I'm so desperate for people to just be like, I need to give this a try. I need to bring this in my life. And honestly, like for me, this headband has made meditation really, really simple. I have done so many courses on meditation. I've tried everything. And this is easy, accessible, it's doable. I love the feedback, the gamification. I don't know if that's a word that you like to use or not, of this meditation practice. It honestly blows my mind. How long does it take for you to see improvements in the brain?
So that's a great question. So you can see the graphs afterwards that show you how your meditation practice is doing. And what you're going to see is at first they look very, spiky and wavy because you're not quite as good as bringing your brain down. And then within about a week, you start to see the improvements in your graphs, and you can see that your brain is going to be calmer and more consistent. And then we also have other features that can be unlocked in the app, like alpha peak frequency. And that's actually something that allows you to track your brain. So your alpha peak is one biomarker inside of your brain, your alpha peak frequency, and it changes throughout the day, and it also changes over time as your brain ages. And so you can actually use other measures inside the app, like alpha peak frequency, to track your brain's function.
I love this. And then, so I could essentially wear my Muse headband the entire day and night to track exactly what's going on in my brain. Correct?
So good question. So within the Muse app, you can do sessions throughout the day to check your alpha peak frequency. You can do meditation sessions throughout the day. Yeah. It's not intended to be worn the whole day through, although, we do have people who run, personal experiments to see what happens with my brain when. And then overnight, we have, if you have the Muse S, we have a range of sleep interventions and sleep tracking. So you can actually track your brain during sleep as effectively as the EEG tracking in a sleep lab. And we also have experiences that using biofeedback and meditation help you fall asleep in ways that are designed to help you fall asleep faster and fall back asleep if you wake up in the night.
I love that. I honestly love that. I love putting that headband on, and then it plays this meditation for me to go to sleep. And then I've gone into perimenopause.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Same here.
The biggest drama, honestly, has been my disrupted sleep cycle. That waking up between 2 and 3 a.m. and literally like my mind is racing with like all these worries and this anxiety and everything. I started using Muse. As soon as I woke up, it realized I was waking up and it started playing this like really soothing sound. I can't remember exactly what it is. And it made me fall back asleep. And I got my sleep patterns back to normal because of this.
Oh my God, that's the intention. Yes, 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 yes. That's amazing. Yep,
Thank
that's
you.
the digital sleeping pill that you're using.
Yeah.
That comes from Muse.
Right. Because I don't like pills. I absolutely do not like sleeping aids in any way, shape, or form. I think the biggest thing I use is like magnesium and vitamin D, but anything that's going to make me feel compromised the next day, I won't touch, which I think it's really important. And I don't know if you can touch on this, but how bad is it for people to take sleeping aids? Because you think you're having a deep sleep, but what's actually happening in the brain?
Sure. Love to tackle that question. So there's a set of stages that your brain is supposed to go through during sleep. And it starts from wakefulness N1, N2, down into deep sleep. You have that during the first half of your night. And then you have more sleep cycles with REM sleep in the second half of your night. You're supposed to wake up 8 hours later feeling nice and refreshed. This cycle happens because of two things. One is caffeine, or one is sleep pressure, and the other is your circadian rhythm. So a lot of people take melatonin as a way to help them sleep, and it is quite effective because melatonin is the hormone that warns your brain like, hey, now it's sleep time. And what's supposed to happen is you have a rise in melatonin as you go to sleep, and then throughout the night, melatonin stays high if it's dark in your room, and then as the light starts to come in the morning, you naturally begin to awaken, your cortisol increases, and your melatonin decreases. If you've taken too much melatonin, of course, you end up feeling sleepy the next day because the light is not properly turning off your melatonin tap in your brain. And as a result, you end up feeling groggy with that, oh my God, I'm still in melatonin feeling throughout the morning. And your melatonin cycle is not naturally reset so that the next night you're ready to have your melatonin increase 16 hours after waking up. So, a little bit of melatonin on occasion is okay, but you don't want to be using it regularly. You don't want to be using too much because it actually can interrupt your natural sleep cycles. The other set of sleeping aids that people use, alcohol, really not good to help you sleep for multiple reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, I see that. So just, in case you need some more evidence, one, the sugar and alcohol metabolizes 3 or 4 hours later, which is why you often wake up after a few beers in the middle of the night, which only further disrupts your sleep, as well as consuming liquids, again, wakes you up when those liquids work their way through your body and need to be eliminated. So further downgrading your sleep, and it can disrupt your deep sleep. So drinking alcohol before bed, really not recommended. And then other commercial sleep aids like Ambien, et cetera, can also have negative effects on your sleep by disrupting your deep sleep cycles. So they're not as effective as they used to be, as well as continuing to make you feel groggy the next day. The same thing with Benadryl. How Benadryl works is reducing the histamines in your brain. It turns out those histamines are really helpful in the morning to make you feel alert and work within your natural cycles. So, sleep aids, good to use once or twice if you're in an emergency and you just really need to get through it. But really no more than that. You really want to establish natural, as in things that you're not taking, tools to help you sleep more effectively.
Yeah, and honestly, Muse has been one of the biggest ones for me because, as I mentioned, I don't like taking any pharmaceuticals. even Ambien or any of those over-the-counter ones. I think you can get them over the counter, I'm not sure. And then this, putting my Muse on and sleeping with it and seeing how it works. Oh my gosh, it's been a game changer. I do want to talk about something that's currently my favorite topic in the universe: perimenopause and menopause. Let's go
I thought
there.
you were going to say that. Yes, I knew that's what was coming next. 45-year-old female over here.
So tell me about the changes to the brain, the symptoms we experience as women that are so bizarre and weird, and what we can really do to support our brain function during this time.
It's a great question. So during the perimenopause, menopause, you start to see the decrease in estrogen and progesterone inside of your brain. So your brain is used to going through this cycle when you're having your period still, when you're in your enthusiastic 30s. Your brain goes through the cycle of high estrogen during the first 15 days and then high progesterone during the second latter half of your period of your cycle, and then a progesterone drop, which then leads to your bleeding out. When you go into perimenopause, that becomes disrupted, and our brains are used to progesterone and estrogen. They actually improve the functioning of your brain. So, one of the likely reasons why Alzheimer disproportionately affects women is because of this decrease in hormones that we have in our brain that our brain is used to and our brain likes. I personally actually take intranasal progesterone, and it dramatically improves and maintains my cognitive function as I'm going through this time. Some people choose HRT, whether you're choosing HRT or natural methods to supplement your hormones. I highly recommend it. So there's evidence in women that avoid any hormone therapy until 65. That if you started at 65, it can cause potential damage or cognitive decline. But in women who started earlier in their perimenopause, menopause, the effects are very positive. And because estrogen and progesterone are important tools to maintain your brain's health. And it's actually been demonstrated that as you reduce those, your brain actually can shrink the volume of your brain. So, I highly, highly recommend whatever kinds of support that you're comfortable with to maintain your hormones as you age.
I couldn't agree more. I have always been so natural and everything. And then I'm getting to this age and I thought, oh no, I would never do HRT. I'm literally on the list to have a physician work with me, check my labs, prescribe anything. I do progesterone so far and DHEA in the morning. Honestly, even those two interventions with a medical professional have been game changing for me. And then the Muse to help me with my sleep and my anxiety that's coming has been fantastic. And so the older I'm getting, the more I'm learning how to really soothe my system.
Yes.
Because I feel like I'm always on edge, especially the last couple of years with my hormonal shifts. And so I think the hormone replacement, and I'm still in that process, and then Muse has been so incredibly helpful. I'm really so grateful for what you've done for us. And I know I'm speaking a lot about women, middle-aged women. Oh, I hate calling us middle-aged, but we are in the middle age. But I think that this could be so helpful for, I've got two teenage boys. I really want to try get this on them. How have you seen the population of younger individuals moving into the space?
Totally. So typically what happens is Muse comes into a household, either mom or dad bring it in. If mom brings it in, dad's like, that's cool. And he starts using it. And then all of a sudden they're meditating or, sleeping better. And then the kids try it. They start to compete with the parents about how well they can meditate. The kids can get more birds. That becomes really motivating to them. And all of a sudden you have the whole household using it. And we find that kids and teens in particular do really well with it because meditation is weird and abstract. And this is something that, as you used, gamified, gamifies it, gives them points and score and gives them a really tangible way to say oh, I'm doing this, or, oh, I'm focusing. when you're a kid or a teen with ADD or ADHD, people are always yelling at you, just focus. And you're like, what does that even mean? How do I do that? And
Right.
this makes it tangible.
Oh, I love that. In that vein, what are the new developments with regards to technology in the brain that you're most excited about that we can look forward to in the future?
Oh, super exciting question. Okay, so we are seeing, first of all, a lot of better evidence around, and I lump supplements into technology insofar as they can be evidence-based. So, we're certainly seeing much more evidence around the kinds of supplements and food interventions that we can use to improve our brain, and that's super exciting. We're also seeing other technologies come out, like transcranial direct current stimulation to stimulate parts of the brain, which have been demonstrated to be helpful for focus and migraine. Those are a little bit further out in terms of their, really making it in the market and making it in through the FDA. For migraine and headache sufferers, a lot of the electrical stimulation can also be really effective. Also can be not effective. Go with your physician to find the right approach for you. We're seeing neurofeedback enter the market. So neurofeedback is something that you can do with a clinician. We're also seeing home neurofeedback. Partner like MindLift builds it off of the Muse. And so you can access neurofeedback really effectively from your own home without having to travel and pay as much money. And then we're seeing tools like actual magnetic stimulation, so transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, start to be clinically used for depression and even OCD treatment and anxiety treatments. So we're seeing a whole range of tools that help clinicians really understand the brain and be able to take it to new places, and use electrical medicine to improve brain disease. We're seeing tools that are coming into the home that people can use without having to have a clinician in the loop, or go somewhere for fancy brain tools. And then we're also seeing nutritional supports. So lots of exciting things that are going to help us improve our brain.
I love that so much. Okay, I know we're nearing the end of the interview. I have another question. As somebody who has a family history of Alzheimer's, my mom suffers from Parkinson's, like I'm petrified of going in that direction and having those diseases manifest in my own life. What are like the three most important things that I can do for brain health? I know we started kind of with this, but with a specific view of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease.
Sure. So the basic recommendations still stand, and it sounds like you're doing those things. So diet, exercise, and good sleep. Those are, probably three of the most important things. Reducing sugar, of course.
Yeah.
And those are the key things. And then you want to make sure that you're supplementing. There's been good evidence around DHA for being able to reduce the potential of a neurological disease, as well as anything that stimulates NAD+. So nicotinamides. So there has been good evidence that's beginning to come out there. Also, anything that reduces inflammation in the brain. So I'm sure you probably already do this with diet, but managing inflammation. There's been evidence of individuals who have elevated amyloid protein in their brain, but don't have inflammation, and as a result aren't manifesting clinical symptoms of Alzheimer's or cognitive decline. So managing inflammation seems to have come out as a really big part of making sure that you are keeping on top of your brain health. And you can, of course, do that again with diet and exercise being key, as well as supplementation.
I love that. I mean, it reminds me so much of the work Chris Palmer does with brain health and like the mitochondrial connection to
the mitochondrial connection is really, really key. And, I'm sure you're all up to date on autophagy and making sure that your mitochondria are working effectively. And that's where taking supplements like True Niagen and things that support your NAD pathways also become important in your mitochondrial function.
I definitely need to dig deeper into supplements for sure, especially the ones you've just mentioned. And it's something that I've been thinking about. So it's interesting that you've raised it. because it's like one of another sign that that's something I need to dig into and find out more. So I'm grateful that you mentioned it. Before we end, is there anything you'd like us to cover before we sign off?
Just want to take a couple seconds and talk about research,
Yes.
because that's something that I'm very deeply engaged in and love. So Muse has been used in over 200 published studies, and one of the research partners we have is Mayo Clinic. They've done studies using Muse for breast cancer patients, long COVID, and fibromyalgia, demonstrating that it improves those life with those conditions. And so when I think about the ways that things like meditation and sleep can impact your brain and body, I think about the ways that they can both help a healthy body to remain healthy as long as possible, as well as ways that you can cope and manage as you're living with disease and trying to rehabilitate a body. And so the ways that we maintain thoughts about ourselves and thoughts about our health and the potential for our health, it turns out become really important for actually helping our body to heal. So I want everybody to know that there is a huge potential for your body to be at its optimum and heal, whatever state it happens to be in, and maintaining those positive intentions and positive actions will just feed forward into a better space of great health.
I love that. I think we need to do a whole separate episode just on the research, the studies, like unpacking them, seeing what happened, what changed, especially in breast cancer patients. I feel like that's a population where there's very little hope, but it sounds to me like you have moved into a space that creates so much hope for people who probably feel very hopeless.
And I think as a society, it behooves us all to support one another and to support that hope and positive outlook, so that we can all stay healthy and happy together.
I love that. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to end. So I encourage everyone listening who's interested in brain health, who wants to create change. And I mean, I could feel after the first time of using Muse, I could feel the positive benefits. So this is not even something that the more I use it, the better it gets, for sure. But I could actually feel, I just felt like I was able to breathe again. It felt so good. So I encourage everyone to check out choosemuse.com/Karen and join this incredible organization movement. Let's optimize brain health. And thank you, Ariel, so much for what you do. I'm very grateful that you agreed to this interview and that we had this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm grateful for you and sending love to you and everybody out there.
Thank you.